Hey, thanks for joining me to speak about chasing Androxgh0st, attribution in an open source cloud malware ecosystem in the spooky dark. Woo! All right. Oh, that one. Okay, woo! Cool. All right, so today we're going to cover a little bit about what Androxgh0st is, where you can find it in the wild, which there are two malware families that it's associated with. There are actually more than that. We had to cut a couple for time, but we're going to cover two of the cool ones. And then a little bit of wrapping up with outlook and conclusion. About me, hi, I am Alex Delamotte. I'm a threat researcher at Sentinel Labs, which is part of Sentinel-1. Woo! Yes, we love S1. I live in Las Vegas. I am not a sleuth by trade. I do technical analysis, meaning I take apart tools and malware. My fun fact is that I started off my career in an internet service provider's network operations center, which means I got to see a lot of really wild stuff. And lastly, this talk represents only my own views, not those of any employer or cloud service provider or anything like that. All right, so first, what is Androxgh0st? Let's talk about that. Androxgh0st is Python code that scrapes environment files and config files for secrets. And it uses regular expressions to parse the files when they're exposed on a web server for strings that are related to API keys, which can be used to conduct spamming attacks. The earliest reference that we've seen to it was in December 2020, but there was a lot of activity in 2022, and it continues today. It primarily targets web servers using the Laravel PHP framework, which is notorious for being misconfigured. You can talk to all of your favorite dev and DevOps friends about that. There's also a lot of comorbidity with WordPress, and the example on the slide here just shows the credential for a Nexmo key, which is used to conduct SMS spamming or SMS API interactions, is being scraped so that the actor can then use it for spamming. And how is it used? It's rolled into Python tools. As I noted, there are a couple of those malware families that are using it, and they are targeting the cloud. It performs credential harvesting using the extracted values that we've discussed, and it was referenced in this GitHub issue, which shows that basically they were locked out of their web server after getting a message that just says, access denied, Androxgh0st. And these tools will often obtain sensitive API keys and secrets and use them for badness like conducting email spamming or SMS spamming, or sell them to those who will. And again, locking them out of the web server is to hinder incident response and also just kind of establish persistence. Here we have a list of technologies that are targeted. You can see that there's a lot of cloud service providers, but really they're targeting email services because, again, the motivation is spam. There are a couple that do SMS, but overall, we have a lot of technologies that are enabling communications here, as well as some content management frameworks like Laravel, Drupal, PrestaShop, all that good stuff. Now, what do we know about the origins of this tool? A lot of the variable names are often identified as being in the Indonesian language or one of the other languages of the region, like Bahasa or Malay. And so many cloud tools do have ties to Indonesia. This is something that we've seen time and time again. Like recently, Datadog documented crypto mining attacks against ECS containers that were originating from Indonesian IP space. Permiso outlined their GUEvil attack that also found Indonesia as the source for crypto mining attacks. We also had Invictus's Danger Dev report that found Indonesian IPs as the source for these crypto mining attacks. Obviously, open source software is adopted by people all over the world, but the Indonesian nexus and sustained cloud attack presence are certainly worth consideration for those who have the capability to build relationships and disrupt the ecosystem. Now, how do we attribute these tools? I call it slopsec. These actors, they have a contact method inside of the tool, which is generally open source anyway. It's just Python code. It's often unprotected. They will have their handle or the tool's distribution channel handle inside of the tool. Usually it's Telegram. So there's often two pieces of information we can use to attribute here. We have a Telegram channel and then a Telegram actor profile, which are generally two separate handles. And these handles are often recycled across platforms so that they can be found more consistently. Again, it's not a high level of OPSEC. We found them on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere like that. And what do you do with all of this information? Well, let me Google that for you. That's how we pivot in the world of cloud. Okay, next we'll talk about where to find Androxgh0st. One of my favorites here is the AlienFox Cloud Info Stealer, which was one of my first reports working for Sentinel Labs, very close to my heart. It is a multi-purpose cloud attack tool that focuses primarily on spamming, and it recently focused on cryptocurrency wallet takeover by some of the developers who are maintaining it. And again, communal development means that one actor will add some features, another will add more features, and there's just generally a whole lot of gray area with regard to who is actively maintaining the tool or who did what, and also they all take credit for each other's work. So it's almost collaborative, it's like collaborative ripping off one another. It's a very strange world. As far as attribution goes here, there are so many handles associated with this tool, this family in particular. And actors tend to cycle through these handles fairly frequently. And why might that be? Well, they often rebrand into a new channel and try to get a different customer base or affiliates and partners. They might also exit scam, where they quit the scene and take the money and then often come back under a new handle. And sometimes it just gets too hot. Like there's too much attention to the handle. We have here that there was some research put out on XCatZE, which was a fairly prolific person in the AlienFox scene. And they ultimately ended up abandoning their handle. And they actually recently made a new channel called XCatZE Re-Up, saying they're going to be coming back with some new stuff soon. But that was in February and like no movement yet. So a lot of these people are full of talk. On the right, we have a table from the report that I published on AlienFox that has 13 unique handles, including 2 that were for XCatZE. So they were pretty prolific. They're not doing a whole lot at this point, though. Now, what we can do to find active handles is, again, kind of banal. You search for the tool name in Telegram and see what comes up. In this case, there were a whole bunch of results unrelated to the handles in the previous slide, but that were actively being maintained. One channel, which was called Alien_Fox4, is run by the handle AlienFox1, which is also run by another handle called Jaguar. As you can see on the screenshot on the left of the file system, or hopefully you can see, Jaguar LLC made that tool. So we probably have the same person who's responsible for this active one here. They're posting screenshots about selling their tools to people. And then on the right, we have their Snap handle, which they advertise their tools on Snapchat, which is kind of an interesting choice. I haven't seen that a whole lot otherwise, and it could maybe indicate a regional nexus where people are using Snapchat more than other platforms. Now, where in the world could Jaguar Boss be? Their Snap channel has multiple videos in heavily accented English, and the accents certainly sound African or maybe West Indian. And there's another video that has an announcement voice in an automated background announcement that is very clearly British English. There's also an interesting conflict between the timestamps of the video on Snapchat and what I was seeing on my computer. So inside the video, the actors' devices showed March 9th, or they showed March 10th, and it was only March 9th for me in the Pacific time zone. So that suggests to me that they were probably somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere. They also have music in their snaps that are from artists I was not familiar with before this. We have Carter F.A., Ruger, BNXN, and I wasn't familiar with them, but I looked them up and they're all Nigerian artists. And lastly, they use a QWERTY keyboard. On the right, we see that there is a keyboard here, and a consistent theme is they're always using the same looking MacBook with a QWERTY keyboard. So based on this, I think it's pretty safe to infer that the actor is probably based in Western Africa, likely Nigeria, based on the pop culture, although I don't know how that diaspora works entirely. All right, moving on to FBot. This is another family of cloud info stealer. It's a multi-purpose cloud attack tool, just like AlienFox really, but it's a little bit different because it runs on infrastructure that's hosted by the developer or the person currently maintaining it. This is in contrast with other cloud attack tools because they usually integrate API calls to things like Shodan, Leak9, Zoomeye, security trails. We've seen them using all kinds of services that we security professionals use to identify vulnerable websites to attack. Instead, this actor runs their own infrastructure, which the people who use their tool can use to identify vulnerable websites for targeting. It shares code with the Legion info stealer, which was covered by Permiso and Cato security a while ago. It's very similar to AlienFox, maybe a little bit more professional and centralized, but it shares the same checkout website, which is really interesting. It uses a Lithuanian fashion designer's website to validate PayPal accounts. So there's like this one URL that it will make a call to that doesn't seem to exist when you navigate to that website, and it's using that to validate whether it's an active PayPal account or not. And lastly, it is very Indonesia-centric. We have a few data points that we'll dive into on this. All right, so who made FBot? It really depends on how far back you're looking. All of the known samples contain references to idevexploit.io in a core part of the code, which was also an Androxgh0st indicator from some much older samples too, that was used as a hard-coded IM profile username. So it's reasonable to believe that they've been around for a while. They were probably responsible for some of these older malware families and then kind of spun off FBot into their own. We have here on the slide a funny message that they put in there that translates to, "We didn't fully use our senses and thoughts when making this bang-sad bot." I think bang-sad didn't translate right, but anyway, there's a consistent theme of these people saying that they are making a tool and they're not liable for how it's used. You know, something that I'm sure we've all seen and heard a lot. So as far as who's currently maintaining it, we see that it's currently maintained by someone named Rep. So kind of missed that there. The active handle that is maintaining it is @callmerep, and you can see that in the very badass ASCII art on the right. Very hacker stuff. So we looked them up on Telegram, and it shows their personal account. We have so many different handles. Then their business account is the Rep Project account, which is used to market and kind of use communications for FBot and other tools that they're working on. And then they're associated with the Indonesian Darknet Telegram group, which is a group that has about 3,000 members and seems pretty active. And then on the top right, there's an interesting post that I added here because it's talking about server maintenance, but uses a lips and heart emoji, which is just kind of an interesting choice to use to talk to people about maintenance being complete. I think that this is indicative of a consistent theme with this group where the actors tend to use different handles for different genders and they kind of like swap between them. They have a bit of an identity crisis and it's just kind of interesting to watch from afar. So as far as who actively maintains FBot, we still have this on Rep. I had to get the screenshot from a VM. So their website is currently down and I had a VM screenshot that was available. So I was able to grab this, which was definitely a relief because otherwise there was nothing. I think you've all probably noticed the Google Cache stopped working recently. So there's a lot of historical services that we're using for analysis that are no longer available. So it really underscores the importance of documenting your work as you go and not expecting anything to be there forever. So about Rep Cyber, the screen cap states that the service is a project to make your cybersecurity activities more easier and more efficient with an option to scan an IP address or domain. Again, that infrastructure part that we were discussing. So I can't scan it right now because the website is down, so there's no output. I don't know what it would have done, but there was a lot of feedback in the Indonesian Darknet Telegram group about Rep service becoming unreliable. So it seems like it's kind of in question whether they're still active. But again, having that infrastructure does give people another avenue to potentially disrupt and investigate the nature of this tool. And on the right, we have a screenshot of Rep's GitHub account, which shows that they work at Google, are based in Russia, identify as a hacktivist, and it again references the Rep Cyber website. Okay, so a little bit about Rep's GitHub. There are a lot of fun connections on that GitHub, and I have to give thanks to my friend who couldn't make it here, Lacey Caston, aka Koran Covey. She gave me a lot of help with just kind of pivoting from Rep's GitHub and finding a lot of really interesting connections that we're gonna dive into here. There was a removed commit on the top left where it had their ASCII art rep project and some of their social handles, including a Facebook handle, which we put the screenshot on the bottom left of the Facebook account. And then in the updated version from that commit, it says, trying not to be a skid. So they removed the ASCII art in an effort to not be a skid. Heartwarming. The Facebook account was created in 2018, but there were no posts until December 2022, which is an interesting and relevant timeline. Pay attention to the timeline here, because we're going to be diving into that a bit more. They advertise tools. This Facebook is used to market their tools. So an interesting choice for Facebook. On GitHub, there are also references to a handle that is called Replicon, which is a computer host name that was used to push code to the GitHub. And we found that Replicon actually links back to a player on several Indonesia-based high school CTF teams. So not only is this a skid, but it's possibly a high school skid. Oof. All right. Now, as far as who maintains FBot, we still have this rep handle. Rep Cyber was used on TikTok, and we have a first initial and a last name there. But the attribution is really shaky and unclear. The TikTok is very unusual. It's many videos of a young woman, and usually there are no words. It's just kind of original audio, which I guess is used to bypass the copyright filter if you are using non-original audio. I don't know that it actually was. But there are lots of videos of this woman just kind of looking serenely at the camera, and often she'll show up with family members. There are captions that I've translated, but there's almost never any speaking. There are also some videos of a man with hair that looks suspiciously like the GitHub profile avatar that we covered earlier. So that's a little cryptic. There are also videos where she talks very uncertainly about a dark past and a questionable future. Several of the TikToks reference movies about dark stories, including one where a man in the mafia is killed to save his partner and their child. And then the account just completely stopped posting abruptly in June 2022 after daily multiple posts, just nothing, no obvious farewell message. Highly unusual. It's really unclear what happened here, but again, we have the December 2022 timeline where suddenly they open up a YouTube channel under the Call Me Rep handle. And this YouTube channel is very much associated with the actor. It's used to distribute or to advertise the tools and just show how to use them. So instructional, but then there is the pièce de résistance. This video is called a POC for CVE 2022-I Miss Her. Oh, buddy. The actor shows a demo of a tool called Multi-Detector, which is a Golang-based tool for processing data at scale. Sounds like buzzwords. But again, to summarize, we know that FBot is maintained by the handle CallMeRep, who is going through some things. They are likely living in Indonesia based on the videos from TikTok and also the multiple linguistic indicators that we discussed. They might be a high school student based on the CTF teams linked to their GitHub. CallMeRep started being active in September 2022. That was the earliest that we saw that handle, 3 months after the Rep Cyber TikTok stalked activity. The video here shows that the actor wishes they were with her. And TLDR, this actor's illicit activity is being portrayed as the result of someone coping with a difficult breakup. Ooh. Feelings, am I right? Oh, wait, we have Predator here. I don't know. How are we on time? I'm good? All right, let's do Predator. I didn't think we were going to do Predator. All right. Awesome. Okay, yeah, we can do that. All right, so Predator is another cloud info stealer. This one has a lot of buzzwords. We have got both AI and a GUI. Woo! It's got integrated ChatGPT-powered user help mode with conditional exceptions that do not call out to the ChatGPT API. It'll handle some things locally, which is certainly cost-effective, but also bad for OPSEC, as we'll see. Okay. Oop. There we go. So there are a whole lot of handles in this tool in Predator. How do you really figure it out when you have like 6 unique handles there? Who is responsible for this tool? We have OB Hacking, which is a group related to Gray Hat Hackers, another Telegram hacking group that's adminned by a guy named MR0x01, which seems fairly promising. They're at the top. And if you use the ChatGPT interface that I really hacked together here and ask who made you, it actually has MR0x01 there. So it also references a GitHub handle that it's basically gibberish, L4GTR4. So I apologize in advance for saying this over and over again. But yeah, let's take a look at that GitHub profile. So what about it? It's dead. It 404s now. But luckily, they do have some other social media presence where they're recycling that handle. And it was used on a Twitter account with only a few posts about bug bounty. And it was also used for a HackerOne bug bounty with a location as Meknes, Morocco, an imperial city in Morocco with historical significance. Not sure how their internet is or whether they're likely to have tech people there, but it's kind of an interesting indicator. Now, again, what about that GitHub profile? Good thing that I took screenshots before it was taken down. So we still have here that it was one and the same, the L4 GTR. So again, it just kind of reiterates the need to like document your research and not believe that anything will be there in 2 months. So who is this person? Their profile and their posts on social media are consistently in Arabic. There's a Python class within Predator that does translation, and you'll see that the first listed language is AR-MA, which is for Moroccan Arabic, a pretty niche choice. So I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that we at least have somebody in Morocco here. Their Twitter is, again, also in Arabic. Most of the posts, as far as I can tell, are kind of like crypto spam posts. It's really weird. They were actually quite political a few months ago, but they seem to have slowed down on that front for whatever reason. They were posting a lot about the conflict that's happening in Palestine and Israel. So, okay, what's their deal? Again, they're often heavily condemning Western countries and pro-Hamas. I found this picture on their Telegram, and it's like, it has like F the US, Israel, and France, and it's got this guy with a gun there, and I looked it up, and apparently it's a Hamas guy from 2014, so I don't know why we're still posting this. But I didn't like the way that was, so let's make it look better. Okay, that's better. I can work with this. Cool. Oh, also, they love the US, Israel, and France. Okay, much better. So to summarize, we know that this person is the main Predator developer. They live in Morocco, possibly Meknes. They have some political views, and they might be feeling the burn that comes with having sloppy OPSEC based on some information I've received. So to summarize, what does it all mean? Cloud tools are special. It's often not this easy to find so much about other types of cyber criminals. I would say that because it's all open source, we have a special window into their world. To reiterate, I'm a simple malware researcher, not a criminal investigator or an OSINT specialist, but I'm confident that people with those special skills and connections could certainly fully dox these actors because of their sloppiness. Actors are also incentivized to sell their tools, not to maintain high OPSEC. So They market the tools with disclaimers saying that they take no responsibility for how the tool is used, but is that a valid take? I don't know. Most of these actors are in developing countries, as we've discussed. You know, we had Morocco, Nigeria, and Indonesia. They're all certainly not part of the West. I think that the minimal amount of money you probably get from spamming is a lot more valuable there. So, does local law enforcement care about that kind of activity? Should they care? If they do, the OPSEC will certainly improve, and we're going to lose insight into the tool development, but it is certainly an avenue for disruption. And just to wrap up, cloud attack tool devs have a lower bar for OPSEC. We've been over that. The consistent theme is that they only make the tools, that they are not responsible for how they're used. We see this a lot with C2 frameworks too, with red teaming stuff. Is it accurate? Like, you're only making a tool. Are you complicit with the abuse? Again, they often frequently burn and rotate channels and handles, which makes cloud tool attribution hard. Let's go shopping. It would be fun. And lastly, just a friendly reminder to other threat intelligence professionals that the services that we rely on are being burned and destroyed at an alarming rate. Things like Google Cache, Passive Total, I rely on day to day, and they're going to be dead, if not already dead. So we need to document everything as we go, and also to develop robust solutions to replace the things that disappear. So yeah, here's some related research. Woo. Okay, I'll let you take a screenshot. Cool. Booze.
You got time for a question or two if you want one.
Cool. All right, Aaron, yes?
Like 2018 to 2020, there was like an IoT botnet worm called FBot. Is that related to the infrastructure of FBot at all?
Unrelated. It was a poor naming choice on my part. I found out about that after I had named it, but you know, I couldn't just walk around calling it what it was called, so yeah. Yes?
Yes, this is the second time that Morocco has come up today, and I follow the threat landscape very closely, at least in terms of the news, and this is, I mean, Morocco hasn't come up before. Is there something going on? Is there an influx of cybercriminals? Is there something, some sort of native industry that is evolving there? Do you have any insight into that?
That's a great question, and I've been wondering the same thing. I actually took a detour to Morocco when I was near Malaga a few months ago just to kind of check it out, and it was really harrowing as an experience for me. It's certainly a very, very low cost of living, so I think they're incentivized by that money-making opportunity, but there is also an influx of Western money going there because, you know, there are places like Casablanca and Marrakesh that are beautiful cities. So I think that maybe there is more of an influx of information and technology infrastructure to host people visiting. So maybe even like a tourism push is somehow enabling more cyber activity. Again, it might be far-fetched, but just a thought. Yes?
From different language options you've seen in their code or their repositories, do you have some idea who their biggest sellers, the biggest groups they're targeting are, and which regions they're in?
That's a great question. It definitely depends on the individual tool. Like for FBot, we see that they're selling almost exclusively to the Indonesian devs, but they post in the Indonesian languages often. And then for things like AlienFox, it's usually posted in English, which again, Western African cybercrime. So it really just depends on the tools. They seem to serve their local region though. Presumably where we've seen the developer kind of like building their brand is also where their customer base lies. Am I missing any? Any more questions?
Oh, I can't see my hand.
Oh, no, I can't see your hand. Okay, yeah, please.
I was just wondering, so the large language model that you were asking questions to, that was the one that was built into their tool, right?
So it's actually just using the ChatGPT API. So it is built into their tool and they make API calls through it, but they have a couple of like exceptions that'll handle things locally. Like if they're asking about a specific data set that was collected from the tool, it'll handle that locally instead of like going out to ChatGPT and wasting money.
And they put their handle into one of those models, like.
Yeah, they put a handle into one of those exception cases that says if they say, who made you to the AI assistant, it'll say, I was made by MR0x01. Yep. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Woo!